I want you to target companies that you really want to work for, that you believe in, and then spend the time in preparing that resume. With all the people that I've worked with, a lot of it is a lack of confidence. A lot of the times they wouldn't see that they had the skills. And this comes down to even with students, or they heard from other people that for some reason they're not going to get hired, so they don't apply. And so I feel that that confidence boost is necessary.
You've opened my eyes to a whole set of things that I haven't been doing. And doing that is just going to give me more control of my results. Welcome to another job search special of Marketing Over Chai. I have Kathleen Leon with me, and I'm very excited to have her. I met her 5 years ago when I was fresh in Canada, and she was the one guiding us through getting ourselves ready for the Canadian job market. I loved everything she had to do and everything she had to say because she brought so much of energy and compassion and empathy with her that she's somebody I followed very closely and kind of kept in touch with because she had that kind of impact. And the things that she said were so helpful that I really hope all you viewers also find equally helpful and that it motivates you all and gives you the right kind of attitude to get through the job search. Welcome, Kathleen. I'm very happy to have you here on Marketing Over Chai. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me for this interview today for the podcast. Great to see you again, Kate. I know that we did work together a long time ago and we've kept in contact since, so it's been nice.
So let's dive right in. You have an extensive career helping people find their dream jobs, and helping organizations find the right talent as well. What led you into this field and how has your journey shaped your coaching career?
My journey started several years ago. I started working as an ESL teacher and I worked with students, so international students who are coming to Canada, hoping to get into university or they just wanted to learn English. So I was working at a private college. And then several years later, I had the opportunity to work at U of T, where I also worked with a lot of students who were also preparing to get into university. A few years later after that, I kind of went into changing careers and I went back to school and I studied human resources. So then I pivoted into career services. I had the opportunity then to use those skills that I had with delivering workshops and working with students. But now at this point, I was working with international professionals in bridging programs. And then slowly I kind of started working with the general population in Toronto. So anyone who was looking for a work, so somebody who might have been laid off, someone who was doing a career change, or in general, just international professionals that were coming in. So that was kind of my transition. And that transition also led me to work at Humber College as a career professor for a while. And so I slowly started now building skills in that field it's been now 15 years. And I went in most recently, I started at U of T, where I'm helping now students. So I kind of came back to the educational sector and I'm using now all of those transferable skills, but in a different capacity. So it's been a great journey so far.
That's beautiful. So you definitely know the Canadian job market very well with the experience you have and with the people you work with. It can feel a little daunting, especially for like students and immigrants like myself. How would you describe the current state of things, particularly for these groups?
Well, I think about when I hear about, that it's daunting, I definitely appreciate that. I see that, I know that how frustrating it can get, how stressful it can get for people who are job searching. But as far as I remember, even when I remember thinking back when my parents when they immigrated here and they were looking for work, they were struggling at that time as well. And that was in the 70s. So when I think back to that, and when I also was job searching several years back and just recently, it's stressful and it can get very frustrating. And there's always a lot of things happening economically within the country. And I foresee that in the future, it will always continue to be sort of that struggle. So I think learning the tools and learning how to job search is key. I think it's not focusing so much on what's happening out there and worrying about, oh, it's going to be impossible, but it's really doing everything that we can in our capacity, reaching out to the right people to get support and learn those tools to be able to find employment. I think that's the most important thing that we should focus on.
That is so true. It is all about the mindset. Like The moment you start to worry, at least for me, it encourages the spiral. But the moment you start focusing on the things you can control and things you can do, and Canada is fantastic. There are so many resources out there. There's Employment Ontario, which you can just get into the system. They help you with your day-to-day search, your job strategies, your interviewing, everything. So we're really lucky to have all of that. You don't always have that. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful for like all the resources that we have. So what do you think students and immigrants and anyone on the job search for that matter need to understand about the job market in Canada and how it may differ from other places?
So, when they're thinking about the job market in Canada, I think it's just really understanding that there is these nuances, these things that you just have to kind of connect with people, create relationships, which I think maybe sometimes is a little bit difficult for a lot of people. And then they hear this word networking, and what exactly does that mean? Well, that encompasses a lot of things. I sometimes say networking is creating that sort of that relationship with someone, just finding it's working on your social skills, working on your, a lot of the skills that maybe even after the pandemic was really hard for us to do. And we got really comfortable doing things online. And it's okay to still continue doing things and connecting with people online. But I think also getting out of our comfort zone and trying to find events, whether they are just meetup events, nothing employment related, but they could just be something that is just to meet people and just break the ice, learn how to small talk, learn how to just be in a group and maybe solve problems or whatever it is. It could be adjacent to what your field is. So let's say marketing, it could be a marketing group, it could be a movie group, it could be a cooking group, whatever it is, just kind of build those skills. And I think with networking, and we can talk a little bit more about networking, but that is the piece that a lot of people I feel that struggle the most and don't quite understand how important it is until they're at that very moment where they're really searching for work and they're kind of, what do I do? What do I do? And then they just don't know how to do that. So those are skills that they need to learn as well. So that's something that I would say for off the bat, that's what people need to know when they're here in Canada.
I love that you said that because for me, at least, I have like a lot of hotlines on networking where I limit it to very formal events or, whether it's just like LinkedIn specifically. But you're right, it's more than that, right? It doesn't have to always be career focused. There is more that people have in common, irrespective. So that's a great tip there. That brings us to our next segment, which is myth or must do. Now, we've all heard a lot of people say a lot of things about how to job search, but let's hear it from the professional itself and find out, what if this was true and what if this isn't. Kathleen, I'm going to read out a sentence and then you can tell me if this is a myth or a must do. And some of these are like circumstantial, they're both. So, just feel free to tell us what your thoughts are on these. Are you ready?
Right. Okay. Yeah, let's go for it.
Just send out your resume to as many employers as possible. It's a numbers game.
Okay, so that's quantity over quality. Okay, so I would say that's a myth. I wouldn't want people to be doing that because they would get even more frustrated. So that's a myth.
Absolutely. There was a time when I used to send out about 100 applications a day. And then come Friday, I'd have like so many, my mailbox full of rejections. And that was not a fun sight to see.
I would prefer, I'm the type of person that would prefer more quality over quantity. So just be more strategic if you can.
Is there like a magic number of what that approximately how many resumes you should send out a day or applications you send out a day?
I can just tell you how I would, when I was job searching.
Huh?
My capacity was 3
Wow.
to maybe 4 a day, 3 a day. That was my capacity. And the reason for that was maybe, I don't know if you're going to ask me later, when I do my resumes, I do tailor it. I do try to, because for me, that role, because I'm looking at strategy, so that role is very important to me. So I really work on it and I really craft my resume. And I use the word craft, my resume, but I craft my cover letter so that it makes it more personal for that company.
It's all about that strategy. The next one, you should always include your photo on your resume to make it personal connection.
No, that's a myth. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do that for several reasons. The Canadian Human Rights Code is the act that's just not something that you would should be doing because it creates this sort of discrimination, and we don't want to even start that. We don't want to have those issues where maybe they're looking at your gender or they're discriminating you for whatever other reason. So in those cases, I would say definitely no photo.
Got it. And people say, take whatever you get. What are your thoughts on that?
Just take any job?
Yep.
No, I would say no because your time is valuable and I want you to really be using that time to job search for a job that you really want. So if you just take whatever you get, that's just the first thing that comes to you. And it may not even be something relevant in your field. It may not be something that will help you grow in the future. So definitely that's a myth. I wouldn't recommend that.
Perfect. I'm happy to hear that. They say networking is only important if you're already employed.
No, I think networking is important all the time.
Hmm.
Whether you're employed or not employed, I would say that there are different aspects that you would be focusing on when you're networking, but I wouldn't say that once you start working, that you stop. That would be actually not a good idea because at any time things can change at work and you still need to maintain your network. That's why the key phrase is maintain your network, is because you have to keep doing that even when you're working. Yeah.
Absolutely. In Canada, you need to use a Canadian style resume, which means you should remove your personal details like your age and marital status.
Yes, yes, definitely remove that. Again, it comes back to that discrimination. And we don't want to provide information that's unnecessary. Also, it might look unprofessional because right away they might look at it and just say, okay, this person is not familiar with a resume in Canada, so maybe they might not be familiar with other things. And so that's already opening up a can of worms. So I would say no, it's a myth.
If you're not getting hired, the problem is always with your resume and your qualifications.
No, so it's not that's a myth. It's not because of your resume, and it's definitely not always because of your resume or your qualifications. A lot of the times, it's the market itself. It could be either there's something in the market that's happening where there's a hiring freeze. They're not thinking of hiring at that moment, but you don't know that that's happening internally. It could be for many different reasons. A lot of the times, you just need to focus on highlighting your skills and the right company, and when they align with what you're looking for, that's when it works.
Absolutely. You can't find a job in Canada if you don't have local experience. And the
No,
Canadian
that's not.
experience is something they
No,
keep
no,
telling
no.
you, right?
No, that's a myth. And that's something that for hundreds and hundreds of newcomers that I've spoken to and I've met with, that is something that I'm always debunking. That's not the case. I've seen hundreds of newcomers find employment in their field without Canadian experience. And I really would wish that people would stop telling other people that that's the case, because it's not the case. It's not exactly that black and white. There could be other reasons. It could be maybe their skill level, their language skill levels. Maybe they need to work on that a little bit more, and they need to be a little more, maybe there are certain skills that they have to update, but it's not necessarily their lack of Canadian work experience. And I think that's a disservice that people say that to our newcomers.
So students think students' jobs aren't worth the effort because they don't help in the long run.
No, they do help in the long run. I wish more students would take on some of those skills, those jobs. What I would recommend is that they be a little, again, strategic on the roles that they accept because their time is valuable. They're struggling with school as well. So if they do take on a job, it would be a job that makes sense on their resume, a job that's in alignment with the type of work that they would like to obtain later on when they graduate. So that's when it would make sense.
Absolutely. And the last one, they say immigration should only apply to roles that match their previous experience, even if it is from another country.
No, I think, well, ideally you want to work in your field if you can, but if you can focus on reflecting on your skills and seeing what your transferable skills are, and then doing research and seeing what jobs are out there, and so that you can apply for those roles that are maybe related in some way, then that would work as well. You don't have to find work that necessarily the same as what you did before.
Perfect. That brings us to the end of this segment, and we'll dive a little deeper into, how to job search and how to navigate the job search. So, yeah, what are like some of the biggest challenges, that people face when searching for a job in Canada?
Well, honestly, with all the people that I've worked with, a lot of it is a lack of confidence. I feel that sometimes a lot of it was me being a cheerleader and trying to motivate people and trying to see what I see. A lot of the times they wouldn't see that they had the skills. And this comes down to even with students. I see their potential. I see that they can do it. I see that they're brilliant, or they have all these skills, but they don't see it and they don't have that confidence that they can do it. And same with international professionals when I've met with them. They come with all this vast knowledge and experience, and then they're already self-sabotaging and not applying for roles because they feel that they're not qualified, or they heard from other people that for some reason they're not going to get hired because of who knows what reason. Like there's all these excuses. And what I mean by excuses is these ideas that maybe because they don't speak English that fluently, or they're not able to express themselves in a certain way, that they're not able to get that role, and so they don't apply. And so I feel that that confidence boost is necessary at the beginning,
Mhm.
so that they can really believe in themselves and then start reflecting on what skills they have and then how does that match certain roles. So that's really the first step. And a lot of the time when job seekers don't reach out for help,
Mhm.
then they're doing it by themselves, and
Mhm.
then the self-sabotaging is happening all the time because no one is helping them through it. So that's unfortunate in those cases.
It's unfortunate, but it's true, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I really love the fact that that the lines that we hear are sometimes the lies we're telling ourselves, and that could be things like, oh, I don't have Canadian experience, my resume is going to the bottom of the pile, and things like that. There was a while that I used to feel like, maybe it's because I have Mumbai on my resume that they don't want me because of that, and it's I love the way that you framed it. I love the fact that you call it excuses, because that is essentially what it is. And I love that you framed it that way, because that helps me take control of that line in my head. That helps me realize that, you know what, I'm fooling myself. I don't have to believe that. I have to, I can push through. I can do this. It's
Yeah.
very empowering. I love the way you framed it.
Yeah, when you believe it, they eventually fall into believing it as well, because you're believing it in yourself. You're going for it. You're reaching for that gold medal. You're reaching for that. And you're coming in with all your belief in who you are. Like what I want people to really realize is they have skills and they just have to now believe it. And when they believe it, then they go into the interview saying, you know what? I have these skills. You're lucky if I work with you guys. And so, kind of everything to me is all about mindset. You're going to notice that every time when I speak to anyone, students or anyone, it's always about this holistic approach of job searching. And it's all about mindset. You need to believe in your skills, because if you don't, then when you go into that interview, you're not going to be able to shine. And I know that you have the skills, but they don't. Employers don't. You know you can do the job. So, Kate, you go for a job, you know you can do it, but they don't know you can do it. And so it's your job to prove it to them, to show them, to showcase your skills. And so you can't do that if you don't believe in yourself. You can't do that if you don't know what you have to offer. So I want everyone to go into an interview. And if we're talking about interviews later on down the road, if anyone's going into an interview, it's to really know what you have to offer, your value add, what you have to offer the company, and have them see that in any way possible, have the tools, but for them to see it. And when they see it, then you can leave that interview feeling, I did my best.
Hmm.
I put it all on the table. Whether they decide on choosing me or not doesn't matter, because I now know that I did my best on my end. So that's how I always want people to approach it. Of course, there's lots of other things for interviewing, but that's the key part. I do want people to always feel confident in their job search.
I love the way you put it. Like, it's just so encouraging, so motivating. It just makes me feel like I have control of, what's coming up. Self belief is I mean, like you said, it is a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't talk about. But that's really like half this battle is just in your mind. You're applying for jobs where anyone can do and everyone will do and everyone will get it right. But yeah, it's just that battle inside that is the real battle. But going back to topic, for students and immigrants, are there like common challenges they face, or is the process different for both groups?
The process is a bit different. It really depends. For students, it's they're juggling school and finding work, or sometimes they just focus only on school and they don't realize that balancing finding some part-time job or doing something extra on the side will help them in the long run. So what I'm noticing when I'm working with students is that their struggle is they're focusing on their GPA or they're focusing on their school, that when they get to last year is where they're, oh my goodness, now I'm struggling. I have to find employment. And that's when they start feeling this despair. And so I think if they had planned ahead, my dream would be if in year 2, they already they meet with me and we strategize the next few years. Now, for international professionals, the struggle is a little bit different. For them, it's, getting to know people. I mean, actually, the struggle is the same for both, because in many cases, it's really getting out of your comfort zone and meeting people in your field. And some students are not even comfortable doing that, especially students who went through the pandemic for a while in university time during that time. So they didn't have a chance to really interact with a lot of people. They got very comfortable being behind the scenes, right? And sometimes now some jobs are remote.
Hmm.
So, or there's hybrid. So you don't even get that chance to really connect with people. So if anything, the struggle that I'm seeing now is really teamwork, the working with people, connecting with people, really feeling that, going that extra mile of connecting and seeing what you have in common with others. So I think that those are some major struggles at the moment.
Very well said. What are some of the key mistakes we make in our job search, the most common ones you find, and like what can we do to avoid them?
Well, key mistakes, I think some of them we kind of mentioned. It's the self-sabotaging, not believing that you are capable. So what I mean by that is, let's say you see on LinkedIn a role and you see that 100 people have already applied. So right away you think, oh, there's no point. There's no point in applying because 100 people have already applied. Well, you know what? The thing is, your skills are very unique. Your background, your experience is very unique. Even if it's for a student who doesn't have a lot of work experience, everyone brings something different to the table. You could be that one person out of the 100 that could actually be considered for the role, but you didn't even bother to apply. So those are things that I could see as a mistake. Another mistake would just be mass applying for all different roles and not even modifying their resume. Like, I truly do believe that a resume needs to be tweaked at least, or optimized. I don't say tailor it or revamp your whole resume, but if you are applying for different roles, business analyst is not the same as an accounting role. So if you're applying for in finance or in accounting, and then you decide I want to apply for a business analyst role, you're going to have to focus your resume and kind of modify it. You can't use the same resume. That's not a good idea. However, if someone is applying for an accounting role and they're applying for many different companies, then maybe your resume could be used for all those different companies with some smaller tweaks. So that's when those little mistakes where they feel that I can just apply for a bunch of roles, use the same resume. So that's one thing. And then with networking, just the mistake of just reaching out to a bunch of people with the same message and not personalizing it. I think you're burning bridges in that way, because that person just will not accept the connection, and then you can't really reach out to them afterwards. So I think if you can strategize and pick key people that you want to connect with, but then there's a reason why you're connecting with them, and then what exactly are you saying to them to connect. So the best thing is if you were able to meet them in person and say, hey, I met you at this meeting. I just wanted to kind of follow up with you afterwards. So mistakes, just sending it to random people and just everybody with the same message, I think that's not a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think like one of the big learnings for me was that treat networking, even if it's online, even if it's on LinkedIn, like you would if you were at a party, like actually meeting someone. You wouldn't just say the same thing to everybody, right?
Right.
It would have its own charm, and you approach the people for a reason. Like it's not, like yeah, you need to put in a little bit of effort there. And yeah, another great tip I got by someone on the show, he said, if you really, really, want to make a connection with someone and you feel like, this person's too big and not worthy of my time, follow the person on LinkedIn closely for like 30 days. Comment on everything they share, interact with them, because you can do that. You don't have to build a connection to do that. So when you then send them a request after 30 days, they already kind of know who you are.
Hmm.
And that really made me think, because you're already building that connection before you reach out, right? And I thought that was like
Yes.
really deep.
Definitely. With that case, you're right. You're very right. With that was a good suggestion. And I usually would say that when you're active on LinkedIn, it is, just follow that person, definitely see their posts, see when they comment. In those cases, sometimes people, when you see the comments and you ask a question, you can interact with the person in the comments, and they most likely there's a greater chance that they might respond,
Yes.
even if it is that person out of reach,
Hmm.
right? And then depending on that sort of connection that you're now creating, then that does open the door for you to then connect with that person later on. But you did mention something earlier where, you feel like that person is out of reach, that they're too their
Too high
level
up.
is
Yeah.
you too high up. That mindset again has to change. So
Yeah.
you just the wording of how you
Yeah.
said it, and how other people feel, again, it's all about the mindset. It's like they're out of reach. We're all human beings. They were also looking for employment at one point in time. They understand where you're at. I think people need to be a little more vulnerable. I think people need to open up and just be honest with themselves and just say, hi, I'm reaching out to you. I'm a little bit nervous because I don't usually network with, I don't network very much. And you know what? I'm reaching out to you because of this particular, and say something, whatever it is, particularly that you want to know about. I don't want people to reach out just for the sake of reaching out. Oh, I just wanted to reach out and connect with you because you work at this company. That is not going to land well. But if you can say, I saw your career trajectory, or I see your journey, and I saw that you started off when you started working in this place. I have a question about that. How did you make that transition? Or how was this? When you're very specific, even if you choose on one little thing, then a person is a little more open to maybe responding because they feel like, okay, I can answer this question. When you send a message that is too general, then a person's like, I don't have time because I'm not sure what they really want from me.
Hmm.
And then it feels like it's going to be more time than they can give. But it's very specific, then maybe they might be a little bit willing to respond quickly and tell you a little bit more. So I would say that about networking as
Yeah.
well.
You're spot on, because I do get like a lot of direct messages on LinkedIn that just say, hey, how are you? What's up? And these are coming from strangers. So like I know that this may be somebody who's like uncomfortable or whatever. Now, because I've been through that quite recently, I don't mind. I have like a standard thing typed out saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. How can I help you? And I like bring it to the point. But I don't expect someone to do that. Like if someone has a busy day, it's kind of weird. And then you're also kind of suspicious, like why, like what just happened? Like someone just saying
Well,
what's
in
up.
my case, I would say in my case, unfortunately, that doesn't show professionalism, right? So if I were somebody who was about to hire people, or I'm an HR manager or something, anybody, and I see that, I just think, okay, well, this person is being too casual, being very informal, and there needs to be an element of respect to my time, but also let me know what is it that you would like to talk about. A LinkedIn is a networking platform for professionals, for employment.
Mhm.
It's not WhatsApp. So, saying, hey, what's up? Or, something like that just doesn't go with LinkedIn. So I would probably give them a little bit of a lesson and just say, "Excuse me, for future reference, do not reach out to anyone
Yeah.
and say this." Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's just me.
At one
Anyway.
point, like they were so frequent, I wanted to like pin a post to my LinkedIn wall just saying like, if you are reaching out to me, and then I thought it'd be like too bougie, and I was like, maybe not. But but it was just getting too frequent and too much, right? It was getting difficult to reply to everybody
Yes.
with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that we're on the topic of networking, do you have any other tips for professionals, newcomers, students, particularly
So
in
networking, yeah, yes, lots. I think there are a few things that you can do regarding networking. I think one thing is use it as a platform to do your research. For some people, for students, maybe just to see alumni and see what they did after they graduated, what kind of work they did, what kind of jobs they got after that, and then kind of see which companies hired them right out of, and then take note and say, okay, this company is open to new grads. Great, fantastic. See what internships they did in the past, and just maybe consider that for next year if you're looking for an internship. Like using that in that way. But then networking would be reaching out to them and maybe doing a little bit of research on. You could do informational interviews if you're not sure about something school related, and you could say, should I take this course? I saw that you took this. Was it helpful? Was it something that you would recommend? Or so that's an informational interview before you make any decision. So you could reach out to someone about a job and just say, I'm thinking of applying for this particular role. I haven't crafted my resume yet, but I wanted to know a little bit more about this position, and and be more detailed. Ask them, what does it entail, or what kind of projects, that kind of thing. So you can do that beforehand, so that I've done that in the past, so that when I create my cover letter and resume, I'm using the right wording, but also I'm talking about the right things because I know what they're currently focusing on at that company, right? So that usually works with alumni or people that you already know, or somebody who's there, and you do that before you apply. Another time to network is after you've applied. Send out to the recruiter or talent acquisition or to a hiring manager, letting them know that you applied, and you're just introducing yourself. Just saying, hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I just applied for this role. I submitted it through the platform or through, your website. I just wanted to take this opportunity to let you know how interested I am in the position. These are my skills, and I just wanted to introduce myself. Feel free to visit my profile. And so that opens the opportunity for just your name to be out there, letting them know that you applied, but also human curiosity. Most likely they will click on your link. So if you have a good LinkedIn profile and it showcases your skills there, if a hiring manager sees it, if they're interested, they might reach out to HR and just say, "Oh, did so and so apply? Because they reached out to me. I kind of like their profile. I wouldn't mind meeting them for an interview." So even that little extra of doing that would help with networking after you've applied. And then another one is if somebody has an interview coming up. So then also reaching out to someone if you have time and just say, I have an interview coming up. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and then you kind of tell them and ask. And people have done that to me as well. They've done that with my colleagues, not at U of T, but at other places where they were about to have an interview soon. That helps because as colleagues, we are already interviewing you. So if you said that to me and you want to work in my company, and I may say, sure, let's chat. Why? Because I get to interview you before my manager. So I got an idea of kind of where if you're a good fit for my team.
I love
And if
that.
you are, guess what? I'd probably talk to my manager and say, hey, somebody reached out to me. I think you're going to have an interview very soon. I think they would be great for our team, or something like that. So people might do that. And so that's that little extra. If you can do those things in networking wise, that would be great.
I know somebody who wanted a job at this one particular bank, and then he targeted the entire team that he figured out from LinkedIn work there and had a meeting with like every single one. So when they interviewed him, he already knew a lot more about the company than anyone else. And they saw that effort as like they understood that as interest. They saw it as, zest and zeal. And they're like, you really want to be here and you have what it takes to be here. So welcome.
Yes.
The first time I heard that story, I was like, this sounds impossible. But yeah, but it's not. I mean, he did it. So yeah, it's very inspiring, and it's making me wonder if I need to like change my strategy. Which yeah, you've given me a lot of great points here. Where yeah, it's definitely going to make me rethink the way I've been applying and the way I've been approaching the job search. And yeah, I
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
let
been
me
very
give you an
helpful.
example, just like simple example that you gave me, but just recently with one of our students, she wants a labor relations role. And so a lot of the past alumni have already done those roles in the past, but now they're working. So I managed to go on LinkedIn and find out who were those students who already did the internship before.
Hmm.
And so I gave her a list and I said, you know what? Why don't you do more research and see who else has been there? Try to reach out to them. And so what she did was she reached out to every single one of them and just chatted and talked. They referred her to the manager. She was able to have a chat with the manager. And so when it was time to apply, she is able to mention that in her cover letter. Sometimes you can mention in your cover letter recommended by so and so or this or that. Or even when you're going in for an interview, a lot of familiar faces because they've already been talking to you
Yeah.
on Zoom or and so similar to what you said. Now compare that to another student who just reached out to me today and is just blind applying and did not connect with anybody there. So then I would say who if I had to kind of guess who would have a better
Of
chance of
course.
maybe landing the role. So you see there's those things that's going above and beyond. So you're
Yeah.
right.
But one thing that's coming out through this conversation, Kathleen, is that this is very empowering for me. Like I feel like I have more in my control because up until now I used to feel like, I'm doing the best I can, and that's just the narrative I was telling myself or the excuse. I'm sending out these many applications, tailoring these ones, I've got my systems down, and it's the market. But you've opened my eyes to a whole set of things that I haven't been doing as aggressively as I should have been. I am doing them, but they're kind of lukewarm. Like, there's so much more I can do, and there's so much. And doing that is just going to give me more control of my results. Yeah, it's been eye opening. I love this. I'm feeling so energized, and this is why I wanted you here because I remember you from the first time that we spoke and the first time that you had those presentations. That's the exact same feeling I walked away with, energized, empowerment, and like, I got this, I can do this. And you do such a beautiful job of, doing that. I'm just so happy I know you.
And you're always welcome to reach out to me anytime. But yes, I think that mindset always, please always keep that mindset because if we lose that mindset, unfortunately, then we're just like going through the motions. You're in survival mode, just kind of going through the motions and you're not really reacting and kind of figuring out. And again, you bring value. Everybody brings value. That's just the company has to see that and they can't see that if you can't portray it. So
Hmm.
you have to learn how to portray it. You have to learn how to show it. And that is a skill in itself. And so that
Hmm.
also, and then the bottom line is the confidence part, right? But it's all little layers, lots of little layers that has to be worked on. And then, you know, you will get employed. People do get employed. I see it all the time. So it's a matter of
This episode with Kathleen has been full of very insightful nuggets. And the best part is they're all very practical tips that we can do to improve our job search. For part two, we're focusing on our resume and interviews and job search strategy and things we can do to really succeed. I hope to see you then in the next episode. Be sure to hit subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you don't miss it because you don't want to. It's fantastic. See you then. Bye bye.